Hello, welcome to the stream. I am here again. This is the second to last time this week that I will be streaming. It is 8 a.m. in the Eastern Time Zone, and we are going through some more great leaders of their people articles written by awesome Ambolite beings, just like you. You perhaps are from World Anvil, aren't you? If not, no worries. World Anvil is an awesome website where you can world build, you can create characters, people, places, things, items, any kinds of things to help you to be able to run your TTRPGs or keep track of your novel or any kind of other story you would like to world build for. And it is a great tool. I highly recommend it. I have worlds on there. My current project is Secret Agent Someone. And even though a lot of the World Anvil worlds are like medieval or fantasy, there are some sci-fi worlds and there are some totally normal everyday worlds. So do not be intimidated by anything. Anybody can go on World Anvil with any genre, any characters, any worlds. And yeah, it's worth checking out. I believe that you should go to worldanvil.com and check it out for yourself. You can also look around at my world to get an idea of things and go to other people's worlds as well. And that's part of what this stream is about. We will be reading through some articles written by people on World Anvil, and those articles can give you an idea of what you can do on World Anvil as well. We've gotten through quite a lot of articles so far. It looks as if I've actually read exactly 100 articles as of last night. Yes, it says 101, but I believe that the first row here is not counted. My spreadsheet, it's organized, but it's messy at the same time. So, like, 11 of these articles, unfortunately, access was denied, so we were not able to read them because the article was not done and not published, so we couldn't read. But then there were some that were readable, and I read through them, but they just didn't want me to read them on stream. That's totally fine. Understandable. But I still did read them to give them a fair chance in the little contest. If I didn't mention it, I'm judging the great leaders of their people category that was summer camp. So summer camp was awesome through July, and there were 31 categories, which tasked us to write 31 articles in July, which is about an article a day. And doing so, we there was an invitation for an Anvilite to sponsor a prompt, and if we do, that means we look through the prompts and figure out which one we think should win, and we give them a prize. Some people use a random number generator, understandable, because this is quite a lot, and I have 325 articles, and as I mentioned just now, I only read about 100 of them. So we still have 2/3 to trudge through. I do see there's some people in the chat. Now, it's just Andrew says, hello, gorgeous humans. How are you all today? And Vasemasty says, excuse you. I am not a human. Oh, no. Well, whatever you are, how are you today? Says just Andrew. Good morning, darlings, says Cedar Honnet. Good morning. Kevoldurfer, 83. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that. Good morning. Oh yeah, morning it is, they say. Well, for some of you, in different time zones, it may be afternoon, it may be nighttime. It may be, I don't know. So happy time zone to you guys, wherever you are. In the EST time zone, or EDT, daylight time, we are in morning right now. There's another Lindsay in the chat. Happy time zone, beautiful people. Early afternoon for me. It's just Andrew says 2 p.m. So yes, there's a lot of different time zones, but that's the beauty of it all. We are all getting together to bond over articles, which is awesome. Dulfer83 says, I'm sorry I didn't get back in touch. My new job almost killed me this week. Oh no. I do pray you do get some rest. I know how jobs can be very hectic. And it's a new job, though. Congratulations on it. But please do not burn yourself out so early. Yes, so I will mention that if you are in the chat and you would like me to read your article, please redeem a read my article, please, with 1 wisp. And that's an easy thing for you to do so that I can keep track of you and know which articles to read. They let me off the hook earlier, so you can read my article now, they say. Yes, thank you. So please do redeem that read my article, please, and let me know what your World Anvil username is so that I can search you. If it's the same as your Twitch name, just say same if you'd like to. Yes, so there are quite a few articles already that I do have permission to go on ahead and read because their authors, unfortunately, may not be able to join us. So there will be plenty of articles still, even if there's nobody in the chat that wants me to read. But I believe that Velduffer has an article. Please do redeem that read my article, please, so that I can know what your World Anvil username is and look it up. Oh, they say their name is the same. All right, got it. So I will try to search them now. Got that wrong. Sorry, thought I'd have to read it. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, some people did when I reached out to them. They thought that I was asking them to read the articles themselves and come guest on the stream. That would be great, though. That wasn't what I was asking, but that would still be a great thing to do. I appreciate you guys offering to do that. If you read it, you're spared my atrocious accent, they say. Well, accents aren't atrocious. Please tell me, where are you from? I love different accents. I love different languages and different accents. All languages and accents are beautiful. There we are. Asterius, Poírius, Acássia, I believe. I'm not sure if that's how I'm supposed to pronounce it. Please let me know if there is a differing in pronunciation. You can tell me in the chat. I'm from Germany, but my accent is not German, they say. I have heard there's a person also in my server. They said that them and their partner are both from the same place, but they their dialects are so different that sometimes they can hardly understand each other. So it's believable that there's a language and a dialect that still differs, even though it seems that you guys are from the same place. So that's totally understandable. I would like to hear your accent sometime. Let's see. Asterius, Poírius, Acássia. If I'm not getting that right, please don't be afraid to let me know. Vesmasti says my accent is so thick that people sometimes have a genuine difficulty understanding me in English. Yes, that's so understandable too. I understand. Some heavy accents are kind of heavy, where even when you're speaking English, it sounds like you're still speaking a different language. But accents are still beautiful and very interesting. Lindsay says my summer camp articles were all a bit rushed this year, unfortunately, but my username is PanAndPaper. Thank you for redeeming a read my article, please, and I will get to you as soon as I'm done with Asterius, if that is the way we are pronouncing it. This isn't such a long article, so let's read through it. Asterius, Poírius, Acássia, was one of the finest naval officers in the history of the Terabanian fleet, and basically the person who was responsible for enabling Terabania to become a formidable naval power in the first place. He lived during the Third War against the Southern Elves and commanded the Second Fleet to be built by the still young Confederation of Terabania. Dulfer83 says the proper names are supposed to sound Latin. It has been reconstructed, as it has been reconstructed. Understandable. I'm still going to probably mess things up. But I appreciate that clarification. The Acássia family, although not noble, was distinguished within the Confederation of Terabania for their achievements in the ongoing wars against the Medulan. Coming from humble origins, the family members earned a reputation for being brave and clever soldiers, some of which were responsible for saving many of their comrades' lives by making the right decisions just at the right time. This talent soon enabled them to rise in the ranks and move up as far as a commoner could get. With this background, Asterius, second son of Wolendius, Acássia, became the captain of the Leva Gunatoris, the assisting ship of the fleet's leader. It was in 1477 of the era of the Earth that Medulan fleet came from Actra, a Medulan city-state to the southeast to harry the Grey Sea coast of Terabania. The fleet was deployed under the command of Marcellus Decentissimus Fibrillo, a highly capable man in the army, but with little experience on sea. His appointment as the commander of the fleet had been pushed by his father, Sirius Aurelabra Fibrillo, a mighty nobleman who was eager to broaden his family's portfolio and by doing so furthering the family's influence on the Confederation. Marcellus's inexperience in naval warfare, though, would lead to his downfall, and, on the other hand, Asterius' greatest success. Asterius, as captain of the Leva Gunatoris, battled at the Blue Rocks and Legacy. The 13th day of Printempo of the year 1477 of the era of the Earth was the day when the unexpected attack of Medulan started to get countered by the Terabanian fleet. They had been harrying the coast around Melita for 2 days, progressing steadily forward. The Terabanian fleet was stationed in Ostica at the mouth of the Evorus River. When ready, they set sail to meet the attackers. The Terabanian fleet had only been rebuilt recently, after it was almost entirely obliterated during the Second War against the Southern Elves 17 years earlier. Marcellus Decentissimus Fibrillo decided to align the fleet in a wedge formation, something he had made good experiences with when commanding cavalry on the battlefield. In naval battle, though, this tactic failed miserably, considering the then still prevalent ramming techniques used. The Medulan fleet used its maneuverability to outflank the tip of the wedge and enter deep into the spearhead, incapacitating a dozen ships, among which that of Marcellus almost immediately. What became of Marcellus is unknown. He probably died drowning in his armor. That's so sad. The left flank, under the control of Asterius, took the lead, changing into echelon as to have ships at different depths of the front line cover each other. While the Medulan had caused considerable damage, the wreckages also posed a hindrance to their further progress. This delay helped Asterius with the rearrangement of the Terabanian fleet. The Medulan did not let loose, though, and closed in, fired up by their previous success and their belief that their more nimble ships would guarantee their victory. Since the Second War against the Southern Elves, though, Terabanian naval tactics had been changed and adjusted to meet the enemy more efficiently. Both fleets were now facing each other. After several hours of minor skirmishes, the Medulan saw that the Terabanian defense was strong. A retreat was ordered. Asterius made the bold decision here to set after the Medulan fleet, although the ships were faster than his own, and they had not received considerable losses so far. The reasoning behind his decision is unclear, with some claiming he only followed them to make sure they fully retreat into their own territory. However, even though the distance between the two fleets grew ever larger during the chase, and there was a certain danger of Medulan backup fleet lying in wait somewhere, Asterius kept going on. something unexpected happened sometime later. The Mdulan fleet sped down and took a denser formation. Unbeknownst to Asterius, they had reached the mouth of the Pinuus River, which by that time was still not known to the Terabanians. The Pinuus River, flows into the Grey Sea with considerable speed and power, making navigation difficult. On the other hand, the mouth of the Pinuus can only be circumvented with smaller vessels, as the mouth itself is navigable, but further into the sea shoals and skerries make it far too dangerous waters to traverse. These rocks are called the Blue Rocks, Lanoi Sisi in Ndulan Temol, or on the Stones of Fate, Soris Silcia in Terabanian. The densified fleet of the Mdulan now had to avoid the dangerous cutting rocks on one side and deal with the flow of the river on the other side and meet the approaching Terabanian fleet. Under these circumstances, the Mdulan did their best, but in the end lost around 43 ships, while only sinking 3 more of the Terabanians. The victory was a major one for the Terabanians and a major one for Asterius personally, further cementing his family's path into the higher strata of the Terabanian society. After Asterius' return to Ostica, one thing was clear: the victory was accomplished without the contribution of any noble, but instead under the command of a commoner, albeit a distinguished one, and a fleet operated by commoners, or at its best lower nobility, as the captains of the individual ships. This led the commoners demanding more recognition by the nobles and opening of more leading positions to commoners, given they showed the aptitude to fill such positions. Under the pressure of having its almost entire fleet against the nobility and the danger of not receiving taxes, the fields would hardly be worked due to the people being in military service. The nobility agreed to far-reaching changes that enabled commoners to more easily access positions in government. The law passed that enabled these changes is called Les Allegate Plavis, and is written down in the Exhibition of Important Laws inscribed in Savania, close to the Ala Liti Savine, and there's a link to those things. Another effect on this defeat on the Mdulan side was the forging of the precursor of the Sindar alliance with other Mdulan city-states. That also became the seminal event for competition between Sindar and Rhodescus. So, yes, that was quite an article. It told an interesting story about how Asterius led these ships into war and won the victory. And then we have, of course, what I will say, of course, thank you so much for sharing the article. But the first thing I would say is there's a lot of pronunciation that needs to be clarified. So I would suggest that either like putting a tooltip where when you hover over the word, it pops up a little thing to show you how to pronounce it. Or you could just put it in parentheses by the word. Or you can have that in the sidebar, which is the next thing I'm going to say. This article is nice, but the sidebar is totally empty. So what you can do is choose to hide the sidebar since there's nothing in it. Or you can make use of the sidebar by using that to have article blocks to different things that we are not familiar with. And also maybe pronunciation keys to some things that we don't know how to pronounce. So that would be my only advice, would be to, so some of these things, I know they're bolded, and I think that that means that you probably have articles in the works, but they are not done yet. So there was a lot of different things that I would love to know how to pronounce and love to learn a little more about that maybe should be linked. So when and if you do create these articles, it would be nice to link them maybe in the body of the text, but also put article blocks over here to help fill up the sidebar. But yes, other than that, I appreciate you sharing that article. Let's see. It says the proper names are supposed to sound Latin. Yes, we said this already. I'm sorry I tried to imitate Roman naming conventions. It's okay. Thank you for giving it a chance and reading it out. No, it's fine. Great. I appreciate you letting me read it. Yes. Let's catch up on the chat. Lindsay says, all accents are cool and a great part of human diversity, no exceptions. True. Cedar Hanet puts some, I believe it may be German in the chat. I'm not familiar with the words. Let's see. Megalodon is here and has redeemed a someone say something, which means I am going to have to play someone saying something. What do you think of the title Everything Under the Sun? Says Megalodon. Is this for your comic book that you've been working on, Megalodon? If so, you will have to briefly remind me what the comic book is about, and that title does sound interesting, though. It really does. Yes, Everything Under the Sun. That's an interesting comic book title. It would make me very interested in reading, or at least seeing what it's about. Next, Lindsay has redeemed a read my article, please. So I will do that first, and then after that, we will probably take a brief commercial break, and then we will have Megalodon's redeemed someone say something. There will be a future article on the Terabanian language, clarifying pronunciation, grammar, and syntax. Started with conlanging and changed to world building later. Understandable, yes. Like I said, if words are based off of another language, or if they're based off of conlang or whatever they are, it's just a nice tip to have a pronunciation key there just for those people who may not know how to pronounce it, especially if the article is written in English, even though it's using words from another language. If it's written in English, then you may know that some people who are reading it in English might not know how to pronounce the words in another language. So that's just something to take into consideration. But I know you were busy in summer camp and world building, so we can't do everything at once. Those are just some suggestions. Thank you. Conlanging rabbit hole is real, says Lindsay, aka Pan is Paper. Megalodon says it's about Illumins, a small African race who get their powers from the sun, a la Superman. Yes, so Megalodon, Everything Under the Sun does seem fitting for that. Really cool. That does sound like an interesting comic book, by the way. I do think that I did let you know that before. And when you are done with it, I would love to read some of it. Oh, it's right here. PanAndPaper is here. Purple Pilgrim. Come on, spreadsheets. Face Musty says there was that AI conlang generator. Oh no, more AI. AI is something. It's very interesting, and AI can really pull you into a rabbit hole. It really can. Yep, so we are going to paste this link in the chat for The Purple Pilgrim by PanAndPaper. Ooh, already. This is a quite short article, but it's an interesting one. And I like already the CSS of this world, how it looks. It's very interesting, the color scheme, the, you know, wow. Though when you highlight over the little, you know, links and stuff like that, this is an interesting color scheme, interesting design and layout of this world. Drake's Dozen world. So yeah, we see, there's not much, but it says special abilities. Since reaching enlightenment, the Purple Pilgrim has never left the Purple Oasis, and there is a link to it and a tooltip letting us know what a Purple Oasis is. It's possible that he survives on scavenged blue darts, and there's a link to let us know what that is, like other desert explorers, or even the magical plant life of the oasis itself. Followers of Nashi, which lets us know what that is, believe him to have divine significance, and that he simply sustains himself on the magical energy from channeling two opposing spheres. As no one else has ever achieved this feat, it's possible to say for certain. I think that it's probably impossible to say for certain, maybe. Yes, but interesting. Personal history: before becoming the Purple Pilgrim, he was a severed Monoduga. And they're letting us know what severed is and what a Monoduga is. Who set out to traverse the frozen desert. He was inspired by the intense duality of the location and wanted to be able to become a conduit for two opposing spheres, something that no one had achieved before or since. No one knows exactly what happened, and the Pilgrim hasn't shared his story. The next time someone found their way into the Purple Oasis, they found him happily living there, having become a sphere bridge, interesting, and gained the ability to channel two spheres at once. And there's hearsay. Detractors of the faith claim that the Purple Pilgrim is no longer that Monduga at all, but a shade or some other creature from one of the spheres, hence his unwillingness to leave the oasis. And wow, so one of the things is, that's a very interesting article, and though it's very short, it is very interesting and intriguing, and it has a lot of mystery still to it, but it still gives us a lot of information that we would like to know. I like how there's a lot of things that are linked that we might not know what they are, like blue darts. He survives off of blue darts. I assume this is a species? Oh, you shall not be here. Oh no. So that must be their own kind of multipass, meaning that I don't have access to that blue darts article, but it's okay. That means that the blue darts are not yet ready, but at least you have it linked. And I figure that there's some sort of animal, because it says he may survive on scavenged blue darts or the magical plant life, which makes us think that blue darts are not plant life. But yes, other than that, I do notice that even though the sidebar is exactly the right length of the article, I realize when I click this, the sidebar starts to become a sticky sidebar. And that is something else that I've been talking about during the other streams, that I like the sticky sidebar, that even if the article is long, the sidebar stays still so that it doesn't create a naked spot under there. I like how you filled up the sidebar with a brief description of the character, but mostly with article blocks. Further reading, we know what the Purple Oasis is, a frozen desert, and the Nachi. So we can figure out about these things that are talked about in here, and even though they're linked here too, it's great to fill up the sidebar with these kinds of little article blocks, and your CSS makes it very interesting as well. I do appreciate this article, and it's really nice, short, to the point, and very interesting. These icons here are so, like, your whole world, how it's set up. I believe this is really neat, and I like the color scheme. And yes, of course, like I said, CSS is not everything, and if you don't know how to do the CSS, or if you don't have access to CSS, do not be discouraged. It's okay, but when there is good CSS, I like to make a comment about it because it is really neat. Thank you so much, PanAndPaper, for sharing this article. Yes. Next, we do have Megalodon that redeemed a someone say something. First, Lindsay does say, oh, poo, yes, that's meant to say impossible. Of course, we can't catch everything, especially when we're rushing during summer camp. And she also says, thanks, I spent way too long on the CSS. Yes, sometimes we spend such a long time on CSS and then we forget the rest. But that's totally fine, as I said. So I'm going to see if we can do a commercial break. I tried this last night. It didn't work exactly as planned. But if I run a commercial now, hopefully it doesn't interrupt people when they're trying to watch. So, yeah, we're going to be right back after this break, and I have no idea what the commercial is, but if you guys want to make some fun comments about it in the comments, go ahead. I have no idea what they're going to show you. Hopefully it's not something too weird. Now, the ad should be running now. Alright. So, if you are seeing an ad, please let me know. If you're not seeing an ad, please also let me know. Because I really want to experiment with this. And I really am not totally familiar with what happens when I run an ad. So, let me know if you are seeing an ad or not. Face Musty says I'm also not seeing an ad. I did see 2 at the start of the stream. Suspect there's a perf or cooldown of some sorts. That makes sense. It really does. Maybe it is. Alright. Uh-oh. Okay. The people who are watching an ad have 20 seconds left. So, as we wait and see what happens when they come back. This is... Nothing happened ad-wise for me. Oh. So, I wonder. The ad should be over now. I got 4 ads, says Lindsay. Oh no. So, while some of you did not get any ads for some reason, Lindsay got 4 ads. Maybe Lindsay got ads for everybody else who weren't seeing ads. That would be horrible. But yeah, I'm still trying to figure things out. I've recently become an affiliate. And maybe there's just nothing that I can do about this. I'm trying to, you know, be accommodating. But, yeah, I have no idea. Just being greedy, I guess, says Lindsay. Yep, you got yours to make up for our loss. That's what I say. Cedar Hunted says, I wonder how Twitch picks the ads which are shown. Yeah, Lindsay, can you tell us what some of those ads were? 4 ads, what were they? That sounds very strange. Hopefully they weren't too weird ads. And while we're doing this, I'm going to try to find, and I should always have these things linked up, but unfortunately I was not prepared. Face Musty says they definitely use geolocation. I got a lot of Finnish ads on Twitch. Lindsay says they were She-Hulk, an ad for Google reverse image search, something about football, and I don't remember the other one. Google reverse image search? That's so weird. Yeah. Wow. So, interesting ads. Yeah. Okay. So, we're going to get back into reading some more articles, but unfortunately, yeah, I'm going to have to do one more commercial break that hopefully doesn't show you real commercials, but I'm going to show my Be Right Back screen so that I can figure out something, because Megalodon did redeem a someone say something, and I need to let someone say something. So, be right back. I'm sorry. Hello, sorry about that. I believe that you probably heard something prematurely, but never mind. We're going to play this really quick thing. Hopefully everybody's back, and Megalodon is back, because Megalodon is the one who requested someone to say something. So, yeah. It's going to be really quick, and I think that that was way too loud, because you probably did hear some before, I did return. And it was on the other screen. I'm not sure if you heard it or not. If you didn't, then, okay, but if you did, sorry. I guess that was considered a preview. But I am back now, so it's time to hear someone say something. Hopefully you guys are back. If not, let me know if you missed something. Alright, I'm going to turn it down a bit because I think that was way too loud. Alright.
Oh, well, I don't think so. Whatever.
Okay, so that was something random that someone said. And someone, Elsewood, is voiced by the awesome John McNally. So, thank you so much for redeeming that Someone Say Something. Hopefully you did hear it, Megalodon. If you didn't, please let me know, and I guess I will have to play it again. Next, we are going to read some more articles. I don't think anybody else here in the chat has redeemed a Read My Article Please, but that's fine. We have a lot of articles that, unfortunately, the author of the article is not able to attend, or would rather not. So we can go ahead and go through these articles that... because I have... How many of these do I have? So many. And I need to start getting through them. Or it's going to be too late. I realize the deadline for this is next week on Wednesday. And I think that I was on track to be done, but unfortunately I had to cut some of the streams short. So I do not know if I actually am on track to be done or not anymore, because there's so much. And it's time to start getting a move on. This one is called Kros with an exclamation point. Vesemasi says, you have 5 days to do this. Dulfer says, I know another sponsor and she's also suffering a lot. That seems questionable, says Vesemasti. Yes. So the thing is, a lot of times, I will try to do what I can, but they even encourage you that if you're not able to read through all of them, you can use a random number generator. You can just choose the one. You just, like, randomly pick one, choose it. You can just do it by who got the most likes, create yourself a little short list and stuff like that. But I just wanted to be nice, and since I had some unexpected free time, I thought maybe I could stream these, and I got a lot of permission, so I just felt like I wanted to share community work and help everybody network and, you know, do things together. But not everybody is forced to do this. I'm kind of doing this to myself, so yeah. This already is an interesting cover. Aurya, ir-Aessus. A severed family. You stay close to me, they won't notice it. And that's Aurya speaking. I'm not sure if I am pronouncing it correctly. It's not such a long article, so we can read. This art is properly credited by Simo Mariu with Art Breeder, which is great. Aurya is a middle-aged Makerid belonging to the lineage of Aessus. In their community is a southern Kithanda. They were renowned artisan and Miik. There's a link to what these are. Specialized in wooden carvings and in the recording of the clan genealogy, carved walking sticks. 7 years ago, while experiencing their second child, they were captured and enslaved with all their family, including their human husband and their toddler. Despite their attempts at hiding the newborn and the lack of resonance ability of their spouse, first one, then the other were attracted to them and sent to an unknown fate. Pushed by the desire to spare the remaining child from a life of slavery and the hope of finding their loved one still alive, they started to secretly save fragments and dust of Nezil and include them inside rudimentary weapons built out of scrap material. This went unnoticed to the eyes of the mining company supervisors, but not to those of fellow resonators who started to help in their effort of collecting the fragments and broken utensil that could have been repurposed. Soon, what started as a single-person plan to escape slavery became the seed of an armed rebellion among the Makerids trapped in the Spaticana mines. Aurya, with the help of other Miiks from various clans in secret, taught the dragon's chants, and there's a link to that, to every Makerid in the mines, and built enough magically enhanced weapons to arm all the adults among them and most of the oldest children. A fight for freedom. Keep the children behind. Aurya. In the summer of 1373, the 78 resonators of Spaticana mines started chanting speed-enhancing litanies instead of their basic detecting ones and charged towards the exit of the mines, sparing little mercy to those on their path. Keeping the children in the middle of the group, Aurya and the other Miiks led the rebellion toward the promised freedom. They found little resistance until the exit, where they were confronted by the company's mercenaries, and 3 of them fell dead, while about 30 were recaptured to be sold back into slavery. Wounded at an arm, Aurya was last seen escaping the scene of the battle with their child, but they disappeared from the records of any Makerid house from that point onwards. Their whereabouts are currently unknown, but it's assumed that by many that they are hiding under a different name to escape potential revenge. The legacy of their intuition of using the shared knowledge of the Makerids families and their resonating abilities carries on in the numerous revolt attempts that are currently spreading in the whole continent. So that's an interesting character, and how they escaped. The story of how they escaped. Thank you so much to Kros for sharing that article. Next we have Irina Vethnis. Alright, and I will put this link in the chat. Oh yes, I'm sorry. I was going to say something about this article. It is a quite short to the point article, but I feel like they need to put something in the sidebar to, you know, extend so that it can be even with the rest. Like, I feel like I say this all the time to all the articles, but that is my advice. I feel like there are a couple of things that I didn't know how to pronounce, but it's okay. There were links to different things that we wanted to learn more about. But yeah, this here, I would think that maybe some of the links could be in the sidebar, like article blocks, to help fill up the sidebar. Yeah, and other than that, the article, you know, it's a nice, neat layout and very readable. And there are breakups with the quote boxes, which is good. But yeah, I would suggest to, since there's already a portrait over here, I would suggest to add more, you know, article blocks over here or something to help to extend the sidebar down. But yes, other than that, thank you for sharing the article. TheCharmQuark says, hey, finally here to see you read. Hello, TheCharmQuark. To be honest, I don't know how to hide the sidebar, so it's always hovering there empty, except 2 to 3 where I put some small things in the sidebar. All right, so let me show you how to do that really quickly. So right here, I'll just go to this article. So when you go to sections, go down, you're going to see something that says sidebar display. Unchecking will force the sidebar to not display, even if it has contents in it. That's all you have to do. Just uncheck that. And when you go to the article, you will see that the contents of the article stretch way across the page and there's no sidebar anymore. So that's under sections, all the way down to the bottom of sections, sidebar display. And hopefully that's an available feature to everyone. Perhaps if it is a paid feature, you may not be able to do that, but I think that it should be a feature to everyone. No problem, but if you don't see it, remember it may be a paid feature, not sure. Let's see, what else were we doing? We're about to go to Arena Vethnis. Alrighty. And I'll put that in the chat so that you guys can read along. Alright, Ilrina Vethnis. Sovereign Ilrina Vethnis. I do what I must for my people. And there's an artwork of her up here. And there's a Hero Forge rendering of her here. The leader of the elves and founder of Zalia. And there's a tooltip letting us know what that is. And this isn't a link to anything. This is just a tooltip. So this is something that I've been talking about as well. There is just a little thing where when you highlight the word, it pops up in a little bubble. Empire ruled mostly by elves, known for its comparatively large amount of clockwork inventions. So when you don't have time to write a whole article about something, or if you don't, want to, or you don't think it's necessary, just adding a tooltip is nice to have a pronunciation or just like a sentence or two about what the thing is so that they can keep on reading but still not feel taken out of the story because they don't know what's going on. Sovereign Ilrina is responsible for the presence of both elves and wizardry in the mortal plane. After their arrival, she helped to found and has served as the sovereign of Zalia and has helped it to rise to its current heights. Her reputation outside the Zalia is much more sinister, though, as the world has not forgotten the ruthlessness and power she displayed during the War of Zalia. And there's a link to that. I do notice the CSS here of the World Codex is really interesting. That's a nice touch. This article is quite long, so I'm going to skim through it a bit. But still, we see that this sidebar is filled with some good descriptions. Age, question mark. So this is a fun little sidebar, and it tells a lot of different information about the character. Oh, and I do see that it appears she is in a wheelchair. Interesting. I like these portraits of her. Ilrina has the tall, slender build typical of elves. Despite this and her focus on arcane magic, she is surprisingly muscular, especially in the arms. She uses a wheelchair. So, interesting. Apparel and accessories. Ilrina's clothes are always purple and gold, the colors of the Zalian Empire. Most of her tops are modeled off of Adalian clothing, but her skirts are much longer than those typical of Adalian fashion. She wears lots of jewelry, most of which is in styles more common in Faerie, but which has gained popularity in Zalia thanks in part to Ilrina. She often wears dark eye makeup like that common in the region. For especially important occasions, her wheelchair is decorated with purple and gold sashes and strands of beads. Interesting. Even the closest members of her court don't seem to know much about her past. Like all elves, she was once a servant to the Fae. Popular opinion holds she was one of the first elves created by Sovereign Ilitharn, and there is a tooltip to tell us what that is. And this was why they were so close. Other popular rumors claim that she and Ilitharn were lovers. Regardless of whether their relationship was romantic, platonic, or one of master and servant, she and Ilitharn were quite close to each other, something that she was apparently able to exploit to her advantage. She was one of the first elves to start openly practicing wizardry, and is widely credited with inventing the craft. While this did draw some amusement from the Fae, contrary to popular rumor, Ilrina and her court have said that it did not lead to any significant friction between her and the Fae, or her and Ilitharn. So there's a lot of lore dealing with this character, and a lot of lore dealing with the world. Personality. Ilrina is very goal-driven and dedicated to her role of sovereign, and counter to some rhetoric, she seems to genuinely care about the common people and non-elves of Zalia. She has shown a great aptitude for statecraft. Likely some of this is from her closeness with Ilitharn. She is quite clever, but she largely downplays it so she can better catch people off guard when she figures out their plots, lies, and secrets. She promotes largely based off merit. After escape from Faerie, Ilrina is determined that she will not be made a servant again, and has no tolerance for those who don't show her the respect she feels she deserves. She suffers no threat to her sovereignty, and, as demonstrated in the war for Zalia, she has no problem resorting to more controversial methods if she thinks they'll be effective or get her the results she wants. Her dedication is one of her great strengths, but also can be harmful to her, as she has a tendency to overwork herself. This is partly because she doesn't trust anyone fully and makes sure that no one besides her knows all the secrets of Zalia. While she remains polite, she has no qualms about using her position of power when dealing with other sovereignties, especially when the defeated Cadriel, which hasn't made her many allies outside of Zalia. It's a very interesting character. Again, what I will say is the sidebar. To expand it downwards, there were a lot of things like this. Agreement of the Lasting Peace. There was a War of Zalia or something like that. All these kinds of things can be put into the sidebar as article blocks, and those article blocks can help to extend the sidebar down. Also, I do see there's a quote here. It could be possible to put that quote in the sidebar instead, just so that you can have an extended sidebar. But other than that, this is a very detailed article. The CSS of the world is very interesting. And, yes, interesting character, interesting world, and interesting lore. The only other thing is the art credited? Yes. Cover image, credited. Character portrait by Hero Forge, credited. Alright, so that's great. Thank you so much for sharing this article, Urania. Dulfer says, I am not so nimble with everything computers, so I'm always struggling and juggling. Yes, understandable. Sometimes it's, not easy to do all these kinds of things, and it may look intimidating, but that's why I said CSS is not everything, so do not be scared to just type words down if you don't know how to do all that. CherreePanda says, ooh, useful tip advice. Thank you. I do also recommend going to the World Anvil Discord, because there's a lot of people around, sometimes I'm around, that can help you with CSS and other things like that if you do need assistance. Beuford Greesewheel is from WantedHero. So we will go and cover this article next. And this, I believe, is written by Jamie Buckley, the author of WantedHero. I will put that in the chat. And interesting world with interesting characters. Yes, characters, an endless sea of personalities. Beuford Greesewheel. Now, WantedHero is a very whimsical world, and there's a lot of, you know, the whimsical font, and even the way it's written is very whimsical. So this is something to definitely check out. There is no greater leader than Beuford, dedicated employee of the Crinkleberg Corporation for the past 32 years. No one remembers the company with him. I would think that it meant no one remembers the company without him, because he's been there for 32 years. Do correct me if I'm wrong. Excuse me. His dream was always to work his way to lower middle management, but never quite got there. But that was okay. Beuford showed us how working and dedicating ourselves to the good of the company was more important than winning a promotion like everyone else. Having integrity was more important than, doing some interesting things to get a company parking spot. That's an interesting character and an interesting method of getting up into the parking spot, especially. He assured us that dancing naked at the Christmas company party would not make you more popular. Oh man, this is interesting. So are these the things that he did, or are these things that he did not do? And so I'm thinking either these are things he did and they didn't work out like he thought they would, or these are things that he did not do. And the narrator of this article is very colorful with their examples. Maybe these are things that the narrator of the article did. Well, that's what makes Beuford great. His vast experience has guided many lowly interns to avoid emotional embarrassments, not to mention expensive potential lawsuits. So I get it now. So these are examples that he did do. Obviously, Beuford did do these things, but they did not work out to the way that he thought that they would work out. So the other interns are using him as an example of, well, we won't do all that stuff because Beuford did it and it didn't even work for him, which is very interesting. In times of chaos, Beuford stepped into harm's way, leading fellow employees from chaos into the light. His selfless acts and sacrifice have been recorded in history and on local security cameras for the authorities to verify. This is an interesting character. When a wave of 2,600 staplers went missing throughout the Crinkleberg building, it was Beuford who solved the crime. He tracked the thieves, who went undetected by building security, down to the supply loading dock where his own car had been broken into and loaded up with the said staplers. Fighting off the violent gang single-handedly and out of view from the local cameras, he heroically dragged his body to the car. Luckily, he sustained only a few painful bruises, and he quickly made sure the staplers were all accounted for once security showed up. Well, that's an interesting thing as well. That does make you think. Vethnis like, well, it doesn't seem like he really helped anybody to stop the stapler thieves. It seems that he was the stapler thief. Though this is another thing. The way that this article is written up, it makes you think a lot. It's very comical, and it's very rhetorical. So clearly, I believe that this Beuford character did not stop thieves. In fact, he was the thief, but he did not want to get caught, so he made up an elaborate story about how other people filled his car up with staplers. Interesting. Standing the moral line. Another true example of Beuford's leadership was when rumors of the male staff bringing x-ray glasses to the annual office beach party circulated. Oh, man. It says, I guess that was something that, of course, you would not like. People staring at you with x-ray glasses, but at the same time, Beuford knew from his childhood days that such claims made by the back of cereal boxes were not always accurate. He graciously tested each pair of x-ray glasses before allowing the spectacles into the party. Come to think of it, oh boy, never mind. Forget I said anything at all. So wow, that's alright already. This person who's writing the article realized at the end that Beuford was not the hero that they thought he was. Which is a very interesting article. I would like to know more about who is writing this article. I don't know if it's somebody in the world that writes all the articles. It's been a while since I've checked out Jamie's world. But I also don't know if it's like a specific person who's writing about Beuford only. But as we see, this article is very interesting, very comical, and quite cheeky. We do also see, though, that this is a good example of the sidebar being missing. So you see how Jamie makes it where there's no sidebar at all. The whole thing is just in the body of the article. But the thing about that is, Jamie makes sure that it's not a big wall of text. The font is big, so you're able to read, but then there's some headers here that's breaking things up. And yeah, it's entertaining and interesting to read it because it's being told to you in first person by a person that knows, or at least thought they knew, Beuford. Vasemasti says, why would x-ray glasses go through clothes but not through skin and flesh? Check out them skeletons. Yes, Vasemasti is true. So that is the classic debate. I always say x-ray glasses, whenever they show that they will like not go through skin and bones, that's so like, you know, that's a debate for another time, because some sci-fi things make it where x-ray vision chooses what it goes through, and that's the most annoying pet peeve of mine. But regardless of what these x-ray glasses were in this world, clearly it looks like it doesn't even see the skin. It said they were seeing them in bikinis, so I guess under their clothes they saw bikinis. I don't know. But anyway, whatever it is, Beuford obviously is supposedly a great leader of his people, and it's questionable even to the person who was saying this at the end. Forget I said anything at all makes us know that maybe this person is reconsidering nominating Beuford as the great leader of his people. So yes, TheCharmQuark says, I love this style. It's very witty and smart. Yeah. It's very witty and smart. Thank you to WantedHero, or Jamie Buckley, for sharing this article. Now, TheCharmQuark, did you have an article that you wanted me to read? If so, please do tell me your World Anvil username. If anybody else is, you know, in the chat that wants me to read their World Anvil articles of great leaders of their people, please do use that read my article please with one wisp. It only costs one wisp, so that I can keep track of you guys and make sure to read all of your articles. CherreePanda says, oh, caught you. Sorry I answered your comment late. No problem. CherreePanda, thank you for joining. Vismasi says, maybe it's a very weak x-ray that can only pierce one layer of clothing. Interesting. Maybe it is. CharmQuark says, I'm also TheCharmQuark on World Anvil as well. All right. So we will go ahead and do CharmQuark's article first. CherreePanda, please let me know which article, what your World Anvil username is, and I can find you as well. And if this works, come on now. Sudian says, thank you for reading these. Where to go? Thank you for joining me. And, you know, as I read through them. Quite fun. I appreciate you guys being here. Let me see. I'm gonna have to reload. Here we are. Oh, okay. Hi, Ashad, Isha. If I'm pronouncing it wrong, please let me know. CherreePanda says, I'm nervous now. No need to be nervous. It's fine. Yes. All right. So we are putting the link in the chat so you guys can check it out and see the article. It's not such a long article, so we'll probably read the whole thing. Hi, Ashad, Isha, guardian of all Amnar, Isha. The High Ashad, Isha, is the first guardian, or the guardian of all Amnar, and the founder of the Amnar itself. She attained the status of Avatar in the interim period between the last war and the Gap War. And there's a link to what the Gap War is, possibly around the age of 16. She was then responsible for bringing together the tribes living in the northern deserts of the Keshwari Empire and elsewhere, Elendari, Kadron, Taja, Ishwari, and Bushu, who sought shelter there as the Gap War began. Initially, this group were only meant to provide each other with mutual support and protection, but this informal alliance was later formalized into Amnar itself. Her personal philosophy is one of peace, and she was responsible for reducing her own fundamental power so it could be spread more evenly throughout the human realm. This granted the ability of others to make use of small factors of this power for healing, manufacture, and other tasks. She delegates as much political decision-making as possible to guardians and others, attempting to be as democratic as possible. Interesting portrait here. There's a little sidebar with little information about the character. Black dark brown eyes, black hair, black dark brown skin, 5'5", 120 pounds. There's some links to things that she's related to. Let's see. I don't see the crediting of the image. I would love to know, how did you make this image? Is this art breeder? I'm thinking, maybe? Portrait looks like art breeder, says Vesamasti. Yep, I believe it looks like art breeder as well. But yes, let us know what this is, and we would like to know who created it. Yeah. So, let's see. You can see some kind of characteristics, artifacts. CharmQuark says, yep, art breeder. Duffel says, sounds banal, but I like that she has an education. So let's read a bit more about her. Divine domains. Isha is the only surviving god of the void, or black god, considered to be the most powerful of all divine beings. She was the first mortal to enter the god machine and survive since its creation without becoming corrupted and driven mad by the power. As such, she became known by the term avatar rather than god. And there's a link to what this is. There's some interesting things here. So the good thing is there are links to things that we don't know about. I do see a lot of bolded words, which make us know that there's probably going to be articles about these things that aren't completed yet. There is a link to the Gap War, though. But yeah, we would want to know about some of these other things, and it seems like they might not be done yet. Human realm is done, but access denied. It's a multipass. I figured so, because it didn't show up here. But that's okay. This would just be some things to flesh out in the future. I know that we weren't able to do all the articles and link all the articles, but it's good that you have these bolded so that we can later come back and figure out about them. The central Emnari myth of her life holds that she achieved this because she did not force the connection between herself and the gods of the void. Instead, the legend of the founding tells of how she asked the chief of the gods of the void, the black god Sankanthara, to work with her to bring about peace in the human realm. As a black god, her powers stem from the most fundamental essence of creation itself, when the essence of the void spilled out to become matter to form and emptiness. Her counterpart, the black god of destruction, believed to be associated with the deity Iastrophe, is described as having been conjoined with the shade Nika. It is believed that Isha was able to request that Nika give up her mission and instead protect the 5 tribes and refugees of the war, on the basis that the Shades were as much victims as the 5 empires as they were. Isha is associated therefore with creation, with the beginning of all things, with the form and emptiness, and is an avatar of peace, healing, and protection. She is commonly invoked even outside the Emnari alliance by anyone who seeks healing of their body or relationships. So there's interesting things. Let's see what the chat is saying. Basemasi says the hair behaving kind of unnaturally around the left ear. Oh yeah. Yeah, some of this hair is weird a bit and floating and stuff like that. CherreePanda says not happy with the portrait yet. Vesmasi says hair can be varied between different portraits so the AI can get confused. Also the weird earring looking thing. The training data has a lot of pictures with varying earrings, but they're not consistent and don't look similar. So yeah, sometimes you will see an earring on one ear is different from the earring on the other ear with these AI things. Also, the AI learns to put something in the ear, but it's not regular enough to make sense. Sutra Hanet says, I wish Artbreeder had a go back button if you dislike what appears. That would be interesting if it had an undo button. CherreePanda says, yes, me too. Artbreeder is terrible time sync. I go in to do something simple and look up to see it's 8 hours later. Yes, like we were saying before, AI can be such a rabbit hole. Basemasi says it also doesn't look like a real earring. And Kvelduffer says she wears her earrings like I wear my socks. So yeah, some people do wear different earrings on each ear sometimes. But yeah, there is a thing about it. It looks okay at first, but then when you stare at it too much, you start to see weird inconsistencies, and you can kind of tell that this might be an AI portrait. But still, it's quite interesting. Yeah, so there's a lot of information about how she was, it says very little was known of her childhood, though. And then education. She was educated at the temple school. And failures and embarrassments, struggled with the exigencies of travel and war during her early years. She was particularly bad at combat, either close or ranged, and sought to avoid it as much as possible. According to her legend, she was bullied by other child soldiers for crying when she saw enemies fall, especially when they were civilians. Although she was present in Petmuth during the very early stages of the Gap War, were unfolding. I think it's meaning either during the very early stages of the Gap War or as the very early stages of the Gap War were unfolding. She was not able to prevent the guiding hand from initiating the conflict. So yes, yeah. So this is an interesting article. I would suggest maybe putting an article block or two down here to extend the sidebar to the end so that it can be even with the rest of the contents of the page. But other than that, very interesting. And yes, there are some things that we would love to learn more about. So I know that it's not possible to do everything, but yeah. that being a new person to reading the world, there's a lot of information that we would love to know more about because it's kind of confusing. But other than that, an interesting article and an interesting character. Thank you so much for sharing. Let's catch up on the chat. Cedar Hanet says one should wear stockings, not socks. CherreePanda says she's probably too busy being some kind of a god to think about earrings. Vasemasti says you could get very far with an AI portrait that you then manually touch up though. Like take that picture, remove the earring, fix the floating hairs, and bam. Gvildofra says exigency. A new word for my thesaurus. Looks up. Una is here. Says she's amazing. Interesting. Yes. Thank you for showing up, Una Queen Isa. Sorry if I'm pronouncing your word wrong, your name wrong. Thank you for joining the chat as well. Thank you for reading that, says CherreePanda. Thank you for sharing. CherreePanda says, I'm a baby world Anvilite, and it's so chaotic. Every time I write an article, I realize that I need to write a new one. That is the magic of world building. Because when somebody new is reading your world, they will not know anything that's going on. So more articles so that you can explain that. And then in that, you need more article to explain that. And then in that, you need another article to explain. And then it never ends. CharmQuark says I've been working on Amnar since 1999, so I've got a lot of world to put into World Anvil. Yes, that's right. So I have lots of characters as well, and lots of worlds, and lots of it is in my brain. It's just not out there. So World Anvil helps you to get it out of your brain and onto the page, especially when there's different prompts and contests like this one. I often don't create new characters. I just say, which character fits this prompt? And then I decide to put them in the world. Yes, every article spawns 500 more, says the TheCharmQuark. Yes. So yes, CherreePanda, I think, was that you next who said you would like me to read your article? I don't know if everybody has actually redeemed a read my article please. Some of you guys have not done it, so if I'm skipping over you, please do redeem a read my article please. It only costs 1 wisp, and you just do that so that I can know that you are here and you want me to read your article. Yes, CharmQuark says, World Anvil is awesome for getting everything out of our heads. Correct. Vasemasti says, all the characters I added during the summer camp are ones that I had bouncing around my head for some time. That is correct. Same. There's so many things that I have. So many worlds, so many stories. It's too much. I literally have stories in every genre. And like so many different characters, it's impossible. I just know that I'll never be able to get them all out, but it's good to do what I can and share what I can. That's one of the reasons why I like to write short stories, because short stories help me to be able to you know, share little bits and pieces of the world, just in case, even if they are not able to fully read the whole novel, because I might never publish the whole novel. The good thing is, at least I showed the world a little bit of something before everything was just, it just disappears into the nothingness. Very short article. Killien Zai, King Killien, aka Keen. I'm not sure I remember what the 2 E's over here, the 2 dots over the E make the letter sound like, unfortunately. CharmQuark asks, can we read your story somewhere? Oh, well, let's see. Handsome co-host, could you please put my following links in the chat? Thank you, handsome co-host. So if you go to my website, you will see wordagirl.com/social media, and you will see all the kinds of places that I'm on. There's something called thepros.com. You will see a lot of my stories there. You can also click the link to my World Anvil page, and you will see a lot of my stories there as well. So I do have lots of different places. I'm also on Medium, but I know that you have to have a subscription for that. So I try to put some of my stuff, you know, where it can be accessed for free. I like people to be able to read it for free as well. But if you would like to support me, that's greatly appreciated too. CherreePanda says Killien. Killien. Yes, okay. Killien, got it. I thought so. Some of this becomes a blur because we're reading all kinds of different languages with all kinds of different rules. But thank you for clarifying. Killien is the firstborn king of Anushin and queen consort Mayara. He has always been everything that is expected of him. He is healthy, responsible, strategic, and most importantly, he takes care of his country. And this portrait, I would assume, is also an art reader. There is something around his ear here. It seems like that was supposed to be hair or something, but that can easily be cleaned up in Photoshop or maybe even like Microsoft Paint or something, just clicking to the background and then blurring it out. Killien came onto the throne in a way that wasn't necessarily ideal. Although King Anushin was a fiercely loving husband and father, he was not a ruler. He neglected his people and his country in favor of doting on his family. Things were fine for a time, but soon the lack of management started taking its toll, not only for the peasantry, but also for the nobility. The Decidi took action and replaced Anushin with Killien. Although he was only 14 at the time, he had already begun to be active in the running of the palace. This, and him being the eldest, made him the most suitable. At this time, Killien had not yet even passed his trials to be considered an adult. This did not hold him back, however. He started making major moves as soon as he was crowned. He quickly learned the affairs of governing from his mother and the officials who had been keeping things afloat so far. He implemented a network of spies in the major countries and was being fed information about the wider continent through this network. Sudian says, always being everything expected of him. Speaking from personal experience, what a horrible thing for him. Yeah. Sometimes it is hard when you're trying to be everything that's expected of you. That's one of the things I was going to try to read through the article. I was going to make a comment about this. Let's see. Yes, he implemented a network of spies in the major countries and was being fed information about the wider continent through his network. He started publicly working with communities in Killien to soothe his people. Most importantly, he found out about the Merida ambush from his spies and set up the ambush that would win Killien the war against Merida, a long-time threat. This was the moral boost that Killien needed to love the royals once again. Killien went even further than that. Not only did he help communities and won the war, he even postponed his own wedding until the war was over, gaining him much sympathy from the peasantry. Not to mention that he would come to marry a princess of Aurya, making the biggest country of the continent an ally of Killien. With Killien being the same generation as the first Zai king, it is only right for him to be such a great king himself. So, yes, he's only 25 years old. He was born on the 4th of May. Blue eyes, black and straight hair. Now, this is one of the annoying things. World Anvil makes it where the relationships are here, and they are so, like, big and in the way. I think there's a CSS hack to hide these relationships. But that is just a very annoying thing that many Anvilites have been, like, asking Demi and Demetrius to, like, change this, because this article would have been quite level with the contents. The contents would have been level with the sidebar if it wasn't for these relationships, but it's fine. It's not too bad. It's easy for you to just add, like, a couple of article blocks here. I see there's not really any links at all in this article, and that's understandable, especially by it being summer camp. But I do see there is something to the Zai family. Nah, access denied. It's okay. You can still add just like an art piece or just an article block, even if the article block leads to an access denied. Or you could put maybe a quote from him or something like that. Now, what we were saying about the king at 14, yeah, CherreePanda says a king at 14, and Sudian says, and the expectations can become a cage. CherreePanda says there are other articles that add information about this, but I haven't figured out linking yet. Oh, I can help you also with linking, and also, as I said before, you can go to the World Anvil Discord server. There's lots of beans there, always online, in all the areas of the world, in every time zone, that will be willing to help you to link an article block and stuff like that. Sudian says, I wonder if he married the person he was expected to or the person that was right for him. I hope the latter. CherreePanda says, don't publish them because I keep adding stuff. Well, that's okay. Like I said, articles can be works in progress, and if you never publish anything that's not finished, you're never going to publish anything. That's just what I figured out. So then I have lots of little stub articles and little things that are constantly being reworked and re-added and everything. But if you do not publish it, you may never, ever publish it. But thank you for sharing this article. I was going to comment about him because this is an interesting character. Both Sudian and I were wondering, I know, about him because it tells a story about him and how he was such a good king, but when you just look into his eyes, you're wondering, is he okay? Because it doesn't really tell about his internal thought process. It only tells us about how he did everything he was expected to do, how he married this person that's part of the biggest, unity of the continent and stuff. Like, was that his choice, or was this, prearranged? Is like he did so much and he was well loved. He even postponed his wedding, and even if he was forced to marry the person, he postponed his own wedding for the good of the people and stuff like that. How did he feel about that? CherreePanda says he's not okay and he doesn't share his feelings with anyone. That is sad. And I was thinking, so I would think that maybe you could add a little bit of his thought process. It doesn't have to be too deep, but even maybe in a little quote box here or something, a little tidbit about how he doesn't, the people love him, but he doesn't really share his personal feelings about anything. He only does what's best for his country or whatever, and then that can give us some insight into, how he's feeling. I figured that. It says, it was his choice, but also political. All of it is political positioning. Yeah, we figured so. Una says, but he was taking care of things before he was told to. Or did I hear wrong? So, yeah, I think that he was taking care of some things even before he was outright told to. But in the very beginning, it said that he has always been everything that is expected of him. So that makes me think that even before he became king, he was doing these things because his family probably expected him to do it. Even though he hadn't been king yet, even though he didn't actually necessarily be told outright to do it, he was expected, and I know he felt the pressure. And this is such a relatable character, and, it's a sad story, but yeah. He has a lot of accomplishments, and this is an interesting character. It's an interesting world I'd love to read more about. And yeah, thank you for sharing this. This one is deep and very relatable to many people, unfortunately. But yeah, we would like to see more about his internal thought process. That's one of the things that character development is one of my favorites. So you can just tell, though. Like, even just looking at this portrait, you can tell that, like, he's not saying everything. But that's part of his personality, is he's hiding this. He needs to be strong. He needs to support his family. He needs to do these things. He needs to be what he's expected to be. And that's such a sad thing. But, yeah, thank you. I appreciate this again. Thank you, CherreePanda, for sharing this interesting article and this interesting character. And though the story is quite sad, and yet it's still painted in the light of victory. Still, we know that there's some internal conflict going on with him, but I appreciate it. CherreePanda says, I will try to add more about him. Yes, but you don't have to do it now. I know that the judging period is not yet up, so don't rush or anything. That's just something to keep in mind for later. Dream Cartographer is here. I almost missed stream. Well, yes, thank you for showing up. I don't know exactly how long I'm going to run for today. I might be on for maybe 20 more minutes. Needs to be strong, poor guy. Yes, that's right. Yeah, I could tell. Yeah. Sad. But yes, once again, thank you. I appreciate you sharing that very lovely little article with us. If anybody else is in the chat that has an article that they would like me to read, please do redeem a read my article please with a wisp. If not, I'm just going to go ahead and read another one of these that these authors, unfortunately, will not be able to make it to a stream, but we can still read them. They gave us permission to read them. Casper, the Voice of War by Drax-TheDarkLord. We are going to check out this article next. And I'm putting the link in the chat. Alright, once again, quite a long article. And we will say right here at the start, another one of these is this sidebar here. It's totally empty. So one of the things we could do is hide it, as I talked about before. Or we could try to fill it up. Or the third thing is to make it a sticky sidebar so that since the article, even though the article is quite long, you know, we can still have that little sticky sidebar where it doesn't end until the page ends. Casper is a 40-year-old tyranny man, not sure how to pronounce. There's a little link to show us what that is. And Nagatoru of the Servants of the Blood Gods religion. He lives on the island of Origin as a religious official known as the Grand Voice. So the first thing to start off, this is very interesting. It says, "For my people," so I assume that's a quote from Casper. This tells a little bit of him, and it tells that he is, you know, it tells some information about him, and it has links to lots of things that we might not know about. I would suggest maybe, if you want to put some of this in the sidebar to help to fill up that sidebar, you could just take this whole thing and put it in the sidebar. So that, you know, it can be something that helps to make it where this whole, you know, body is not too long. And then this follower quotes here, that could probably also be in the sidebar. Just to fill it up. I don't see a portrait for him. But yeah. If we could just have a description, and I do see a description here, we could put the description in the sidebar. Just things to fill up the sidebar. Casper is a dark red skin, rather average, muscular, 165 centimeters tall, body covered in scars. He's bald, which makes his brown eyes stand out, wears purple shirt and black robes over it, complemented by streaks of green and red. His whole outfit is really grand in style, unlike others of his position. He doesn't wear a mask, which makes him very recognizable, not to mention the large scar that goes across his face, missing both eyes. So that gives us a vivid description of him. So now we kind of know how he looks, even though there's not a portrait illustration of the character. That kind of thing would be great to put in the sidebar, just my opinion. Personality. Pros. He's a pretty loud and talkative, extroverted person, someone who speaks his mind aloud in any situation, someone who tends to stand out in crowds despite being below average height. He has a very commanding personality, just his presence is enough to straighten everyone's back. And while he may appear to be a jerk, deep down he cares about his people. Casper loves weapons and spends a considerable amount of time taking care of them, or even making new ones. He even has a large collection, the great sword he named Skullbreaker, being his favorite. Among his others likes are capybaras and howler monkeys, lamb, and avocados in terms of food. Cons. Casper tends to get in people's business and personal space, often striking conversation when it's not a good time for one. He really gets into it when fighting, often disregarding his own life and lives of his comrades. He considers retreat an act of cowardice and would rather fight until his last breath. Casper fears poison dart frogs, hates arachnids, mainly black weaver tarantula, and hates the taste of pomegranate. So, interesting. Motivation. He loves fighting a lot, but more important to him are his people. Their survival and prosperity are of utmost importance to him. He will fight for them till his last breath. He will lead them towards a better future, and if he fails, he'll just try again. So, he's a very determined person. Even though he has some, anger management issues, it seems. There's a big, long backstory. Leadership. He's very known and celebrated among his people, someone who will be remembered in history as a hero and a great leader. He used to lead his men in war as a warlord of Garamuth, and there's a link to that, and now continues to lead its people, I think that's a spelling error, as the Grand Voice, trying to push changes and improvements to make his people prosper. During his life, Casper led the biggest raid in history on Danian City, Kefera, raid on Kefera, and there's a link to that, which is yet to be surpassed. Among his achievements are several battles which earned respect of his men and made him known not only for his ability to lead, but also his ability to fight. Matter of weapons, Casper is a great leader and tactician, but also a master of many weapons. He mastered every sword, axe, spear, halberd, and mace type, alongside a few other weapons and several fighting styles, which he can effortlessly switch between, preventing his opponent from predicting Casper's actions. Casper is, and will be remembered as one of the greatest tacticians and warriors in Nagaturu history. While he may not have slain a myth such as Tiglamoy, or led an army to victory in great battle, he will be remembered as a great leader and warrior who led his people towards prosperity and a better future. Follower quotes. He is a great friend, someone I would bet my life on. I hate him, but I must admit he's a great fighter. Great leader and exceptional warrior. I look forward to fighting along his side again. I pray for this man to free us of our false leader and make things be as during times of our ancestors spoke of. There aren't many people who are strong enough to lead. He should be an example to us. Make Nagaturu great again. I was there and can speak for his feats of leadership. Alright. So thank you so much for sharing this article. There were a lot of links to things that we wanted to know more about, which is good. Like I said, the sidebar, I would rather it not be just naked here. We can add things to it to extend it a bit. The follower quotes are a nice touch. It shows how his followers follow him, even though sometimes they don't like him. They still follow him, and they tell why. So that gives a lot of personality to the article. Yeah, it's very, very descriptive and very informative. So thank you so much to Drax-TheDarkLord for sharing that article with us. Next we have Wolendius Curathen, Emperor Charles II. I will put that in the chat as well. And once again, if you're just stopping by, if you are from World Anvil and you wrote a great leader of their people article, and you would like me to read it right now on stream, please do redeem a read my article, please, so that I can know that you're here and skip to your article right away. Also, there's other things that you can buy in the shop. If you click the little wisps There is an ongoing challenge of Twitch party. If you would like us to have a Twitch party, please do donate some wisps. These wisps are not real money. They are they were able to be collected by you just watching the stream. And as long as you're watching the stream, you're going to be winning and earning more wisps. And you can use those to contribute to a Twitch party where I will just do whatever the chat wants me to. And I'll play Steam games, and stuff like that. And we'll just have lots of fun. Thank you so much, CherreePanda, for contributing to the Twitch party. And anybody else, thank you to you guys who have redeemed things with the wisps. We also have a highlight my message, which I will say you do not have to do that because I read through your chat all the time and I do not need your message to be highlighted. It's not too bustling of a chat yet to require that. I do have a celebrate option where you can make me celebrate. I can also tell you a funny true story. You can have co-host do something or someone say something, which we heard someone say something earlier today. You can also hijack the stream and make me do something that is not reading articles. So there's lots to be explored there. This is interesting. Wolendius, Curathen. And yes, I like how there is a pronunciation key. Wolendius. Oh. Wolendius Curathen. Wolendius Curathen. Yes, so that helped me to be able to pronounce it. So that is one of the things that I'm already saying is a cool addition to this article. This article is very short, it appears. And this is some interesting art as well. It looks like a drawing. I wonder, is it credited? No, I don't see it being credited. If the author, Emperor Charles II, if you did draw this art, please credit yourself. And if somebody else drew it, please credit them as well, because this is very interesting. I like it. It looks neat. And it's just great to even just have... Oh, there is credited! Yes, it is credited. I always miss it, don't I? Thank you. It says all images in this article were created by me, Emperor Charles II, unless otherwise indicated. So, awesome. I commend your art. I appreciate it. And Dream Cartographer with the good eyes says it is credited. Thank you, Dream Cartographer, for peeping that out, even though I just did notice it. You are so quick in noticing those things. Yeah, this is really nice. I like the art style. It's nice and quaint. It feels like a little book. So let's read about Wolendius Curathen. I've spent 50 years of my life in war. Now it's time for us Gojoth to bring peace. We have spent time immemorial believing ourselves to be the only ones who can stop the Incusul. Now it's time to ask the world to step forward. And this was in Wolendius' address to Galerius village, it appears. So the good thing is there are links and tooltips to what these things are. Will you dare brave the dark heart of the Incuna jungle? They do, and tend to come back. So this must be a species. Or, oh, it looks like a profession. It's a profession. Gojoth is a profession. And then Incusul, terrifying disease that turns living and non-living matter into the Incuborn. Ooh. So that's a condition. So, yeah, very interesting world already. If anyone could ask the world to step forward, Wolendius' last name, I think that's a placeholder that got left in, would be the one to get them to listen. A veteran runner, the healer, the aged leader of Pantanius city, and there's a link to what that is now Grand Gojoth. I just figured out how to pronounce it and I forgot. Gojoth, yes. And advisor to the city's branch of healers. Lesser folk would buckle under the weight. Wolendius, it appears, never will. And this is a portrait of Wolendius. Wolendius was a runner for nearly 30 years before becoming a healer, considering the incredible dangers of a Gojoth runner's career. 30 years is an immensely long time. All this and he never progressed past stage 1 of the incusal infection. Add to that he was the most successful runner in those 30 years, and he was already a legend. Then came the incident at Galerius village. I wonder if there's pronunciation there. No. But Galerius, probably. The incident at Galerius village, where he and his wife Vasmin, also a formidable runner, were dispatched to help the beleaguered din of the village. His leadership and help with ridding the village of the contagion was instrumental in solving the crisis. He was elevated to the rank of Grand Gojoth on the death of his predecessor, and a couple of years later, the vote being almost unanimous. It was during that time that he realized the role of the outside world that the outside world could offer to the entrenched Janti of the Incuna forest. Since then, he's been creating a group of world runners to bring news and seek help from the nearby nations. That initiative has so far been unsuccessful, but Wolendius is nothing if not perseverant. So, he's a very perseverant character. Tells us species, Smoothkin. Multipass. Its current location is Pantanius City. So yeah, ethnicity is Jaunt, and that's a multipass as well. So I cannot see it, but it's okay. Age 63, bald, 5'11", and the Gojoth Tree Corps is his aligned organization. Wolendius is now in his 7th decade, and while he's no longer a runner, he's still remarkably spry for his age. He's still stick thin, not very muscular, and incredibly quick on his feet. His most noticeable features are the tattoos of an eye on the back of his hands. He also tends to wear the black robes and necklace of his rank wherever he goes. So, good descriptions, good artwork, and very short to the point article that tells a story. And the sidebar is exactly the same width and length. Length as the contents, which is something that I adore. The art style is very distinct, says Dulfer. Yes, it is. And then articles under Wolendius, they have different linked articles under that. These will automatically appear, I believe. So yeah, this is very interesting. The theme of the world, the coloration, the art style, very intriguing. Thank you so much to Emperor Charles II for sharing this article with us. Dream Cartographer says, I agree, the illustrations are detailed and well done. Yes, and the colors are very bold and bright. I do appreciate you guys sharing that article. Once again, I'm going to say it's probably about time for me to wrap up this stream. It's been almost 2 hours. So I thank every single one of you guys for joining in, for sharing your articles, for reading along with me, for commenting, for sharing those wisps in the chat, and sharing your feedback in the chat. There were some very interesting articles we went over today. And I appreciate each and every one of you for always hanging out with me. I do plan to go live again at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, which is in about 10 hours. And yeah, if you would like to join, feel free. If you can't, no worries. Thank you guys so much once again, and God bless, much success, and happy time zone, because I do not know when it is for you. It may be morning, it may be afternoon, it may be night. I see a new person appeared in the chat. It says hello. Hello, Gibo. Thank you so much for joining. Unfortunately, we are about to check out, but thank you for joining today, and please do stop by again. You guys have a blessed one. Let me see. I might be able to raid again. Last time I tried to raid, and I was able to raid. So I do see RPG Dinosaur Bob is streaming, and RPG Dinosaur Bob has rated me before. Oh, Jibo53 says I'm the person you talked with on World Anvil. Well, unfortunately, I've talked with a lot of people. Please let me know what your username is. Maybe we do have time to go over one more article. Please let me know which article you did, so that since you stopped by, I will go ahead and want to do the article for you. Yeah, I tried a raid once before, and I think I did it right. I can try a raid one more time. Jibo53. Oh, it's the same as your Twitch handle. So, sorry you guys for saying a false goodbye. I'm going to just really quickly try to go over Jibo's article, since they have taken the time to stop here. And hopefully, there we go. King Ordo by Blientiel Sackins. Last article. Yeah, it's okay. We're just gonna do this. If you do need to leave, if any of you guys needed to leave, go ahead. I'm just gonna try to do this one last one, and then I will probably get out of here. But I'm putting this link in the chat here for Gibo's article. King Ordo Blientiel Sackins, the fearless leader, king of the tiny folk, the lethal dagger. And the article is not too short, but we can skim through a little bit and figure out what this king is all about. Ordo is one of the most famous heroes of the Halfling history. He led the small separatists in the Halfling uprising, emerging victorious in the end and consequently founding the state of Blientiel. After that, Ordo rallied some of the Halfling families and a few of his fellow revolutionaries and traveled to the Alandar Isthmus. There, he founded the capital of the realm, Syrup. Interesting name. Not many years after, he was crowned king of the tiny folk and lived the rest of his days in that city. Interesting character and interesting summary of his history. There are some nice little descriptions in the sidebar. Grayish-green eyes, reddish-yellow goes to the shoulders, hair. Pale white skin, 1 meter tall, and 40 kilograms. There are lots of linked districts that he founded, which is interesting. Even though there isn't a portrait of the character, there's still a description, which makes us be able to know who he is. I would think also maybe you could put some of these founded settlements linked in as article blocks so that it can keep this this sidebar at length with the contents of the page. That's just one of my suggestions. Let's see. Muscular, defined, and agile halfling. Most distinctive facial features: long scar that resides diagonally on his left eye. He also has a tattoo of the symbol of the small separatists in his right temple. He rubs his hands together when he's nervous and gesticulates his arms a lot when speaking. He has a beautiful golden crown that has several precious stones encrusted. A large ruby lays on the center of it. It's worth 5 I would think this is saying 5,000 GP. Ordo has a really well crafted short sword, and I see there's lots of little RPG notes. he calls Talon. He also constantly wears a studded leather armor under his attire and holds a +1 dagger in his belt. So this is probably for game, so it's good to have his notes there. Ordo Sackins was born in the old capital. It was called Avalendal at the time. He was a sturdy and clever halfling that served in Rokvar's army. Let's see. After some years of planning, the uprising finally started. The halflings emerged victorious after having fought many battles and losing many of their kind. Therefore, after having founded Brigillum, Ordo and some of his fellow revolutionaries and family members traveled to some new inquired lands, the Elendar Isthmus, and together they founded the city of Syrup, a safe haven for all the tiny folk spread across Lindrinor. Some years after, Ordo was crowned king of the new country and spent the rest of his days ruling Brigildum and making sure all halflings that live within the borders of his realm are respected and live freely. He has a very poor education, although he learned a lot about fighting and conflicts during his time as a soldier. He served on Rokvar's army for several years. Besides being king, this was his only job he ever had. He's not the most intelligent and academic amongst the halflings, but he's very cunning and wise. He just wants to rule the kingdom the best he can. That's his motivation. He's crowned king in the year 369 BBE and has been ruling the realm with hope and justice on his mind ever since. Ruling the realm with hope and justice on his mind. That's pretty neat. He's charismatic person. Sorry. He has a huge ego, though, that does not tolerate any kind of insult. He has 4 pit bulls called Tina, Dina, Mina, and Krina that always stay by his side. That's an interesting bit. He has a deep and elegant voice. Despite his noble ways, he says a lot of curse words and sometimes stumbles a bit on harder to say words. He's probably the richest halfling in Lindrinor's history. He was not only entitled to Ilbo Sackins, that sounds like an interesting name, fortune, and a bar franchise, but earned loads of more treasures and money when he became king. Fair sum of the taxes of the realm goes to the House Sackins, making it, and consequently Ordo, richer and richer with every passing year. So, yes. Gibbo says, yeah, it's for game. He's the king that gives the party the quest they need to do. Cedar Honnet says, what if the characters want to rob him? They can surely try, says Gibbo. I wonder. Dream Cartographer says, LOL, I was thinking Hill. Yeah. So, murder hobo mood. Oh no. So yeah, this is a character, of course, in a game, so it's good to know a lot about the character. And like I said, a lot of times if it's notes for a game, you don't actually make your pages so elaborate and all that stuff, because these are mainly just GM notes. But it's still nice, in my opinion, to have the sidebar, you know, the same length of the contents of the page, if possible. But if not, no worries. That would just be my only suggestion. And there was lots of things that we would like to know more about, but a lot of that stuff is linked, which is great. These names do seem very very reminiscent of seeming as if I can imagine which inspiration these characters and names were maybe possibly taken from. Cedar Honnet says, Arson Hobo is my player's theme. Dulfer says, I have to go to the studio now. Yes, and I also have to go as well. Thank you so much, Gibo, for sharing that last-minute article. And thank you, everyone, for joining in the chat. I appreciate every single one of you for joining. And you guys have a blessed and wonderful day, night, afternoon, evening, whatever time zone you're in. And thanks so much for stopping by with me. I appreciate you guys always. Much love. Thank you again to all of you guys who are saying thank you to me. Thank you very much. You guys have a blessed one. And yeah, I still might try to raid. So you can leave if you need to, because some of you guys need to leave. Have triple head pats, says Dream Cartographer. All right, thank you. And let's see. I don't know if they're still streaming, but we will see if we can maybe raid RPG Dinosaur Bob. If you do need to leave, please go ahead and leave. But yeah, I'm going to go and do that. You guys have a blessed day, and thank you so much for joining me. Bye. Oh no, I think I did it wrong. Try again. All right, we're going to raid. Let's see if it works. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I think that's it. Is it working? I don't know how to do this. Alright, I don't know if it's working or not, but if it is working, yay. If it's not, I will just have to end. Hopefully, it's working. Alright, see you guys. If you still see me, I don't know what I'm doing. Goodbye.